Welcome to Temple Update. I'm Victoria Lynn.
And I'm Lynn Giroud. A new Temple University study says that every 15 minutes another person becomes homeless in Philadelphia. The report is the first comprehensive study of the city's homeless problem, and it contains some surprising statistics. Dirty, dingy, drunk. Words that paint a stereotypical image of Philadelphia's homeless. But Michael Bowden is homeless too, and he presents a very different picture.
Yeah, I had a job, but I had what people would think is a rather good professional level job. I'm an Air Force veteran. I've been to college. I went to a pretty well-known prep school. So I don't fit the so-called mold, that people think of when they see a guy on the street.
Michael was left homeless 3 years ago when he lost his job, and he is just one of the thousands of homeless people in Philadelphia who the study says are victims of economics, not drug and alcohol abuse.
Shortage of housing supply, a shortage of jobs that pay a sufficient living wage, a welfare system which is punitive, a welfare system which is inadequate.
The underlying problem is still there. We still have a problem of not having enough housing. Of affordable housing. We still have the basic punitive welfare system.
The report says that 2 out of 3 homeless people in Pennsylvania are right here in the city of Philadelphia, and estimates that in 1987, 35,000 people experienced homelessness at one time or another in the city. That's 1 every 15 minutes. The study shows that 63% of Philadelphia's homeless are men, 88% are minorities, and 67% are between the ages of 18 and 45.
Many of the people in that group are working. Many of them have what we would probably term significant barriers to employment. Not only their substance abuse, but perhaps the background, the skills, technical skills and life skills as well.
Philadelphia, that means that we've had a deteriorating job base, largely in the manufacturing sector, which is the kind of employment by which you earn enough to have your own home, you earn enough to have a piece of the American dream. As well, I think we see reflected in it a legacy of racism continuing. Civil rights laws haven't been enough to provide economic justice across the spectrum.
The report also shows that nearly 1/3 of Philadelphia's homeless are women with children. The study comes at a time when many shelters in the city are closing down due to a $17 million cut in homeless programs in this year's budget.
Well, I think there's enough blame to go around.
Bartelt says the city isn't entirely to blame. He says it didn't have much choice given the cuts in social services made at the federal level.
I think at the national level, the basic policy has been to not commit anything to the help of people who are poor and are in poor housing. But it means that the homeless come last. And as long as that's the policy, well, nothing will be accomplished.
University has expanded its healthcare services with the grand opening of the Comprehensive Cancer Center on the Health Sciences campus. The $1.5 million center will be jointly run by Temple and Selleck Healthcare of California. The new facility offers cancer patients a full range of services, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and specializes in outpatient care. The center is now operating on an interim basis. A $10 million permanent center should be complete in 1991.
There is relief in sight for frustrated campus commuters. The Board of Trustees has awarded a $564,000 contract for the construction of a parking lot at the Wilkie Buick site. The Temple Update's David Scott has more on this story.
Temple has short-term and long-range plans for the Wilkie Buick lot. The 5-acre tract, purchased for over $7 million, will initially be turned into a 600-car parking lot that promises to ease the present parking crisis. The university is presently considering bids to pave the site, but the parking lot will not be there forever. Eventually, it'll be replaced by a 12,000-seat recreation and convocation center that will replace McGonigal Hall as home of the Temple Owls basketball team. The new center will be more than a basketball arena. Kent Rayburn is Special Assistant to the President for Campus Planning.
It gives us the opportunity to have a lot more entertainment events that at present time are always elsewhere in the city. North Philadelphia really doesn't have a venue for that. And we feel that there's a great opportunity here, an appropriate opportunity. Temple is already the cultural center, if you will, of a great part of North Philadelphia. And this will give a brand new facility, an appropriate facility for those kinds of events.
Rayburn says the administration will also use the facility for academic purposes. A feasibility study now underway will give Temple a better idea how the center will ultimately be used. According to Rayburn, initial cost estimates are about $33 million. Funding for the construction is still up in the air, but the university will explore all options.
We are looking at every creative financing vehicle that's available to us. We feel we're going to have to rely a great deal on contributions, and we will be looking for those. But that is not to say that that will be the only source of funds.
Funding for the construction is still up in the air, but the university will explore all options. Rayburn says planning the project will take at least 18 months and actual construction about 2 years. Community reaction to the plan is mixed. Some residents of the surrounding neighborhoods are concerned that Temple will continue expansion in the area. One merchant who wouldn't appear on camera says Temple never let him know about the project and called the situation a disgrace. Community fears, however, center primarily on parking. Rayburn says parking will be provided.
We will have to create structured parking, multi-level parking, and that will have to be incorporated into the land that we have purchased in the Wilkie site, and that'll be part of this great mixed-use project that we have to do.
Other community members believe a new arena is a good idea. Tyrone Elliott works at a local grocery store across the street from the lot.
I think it brings a lot of business and stuff like that. We need more stuff like that in the community. For the younger kids and stuff like that. Plus, they ain't got to go all the way downtown and stuff like that. So I think it's a nice and good idea. Plus, it'd be good business for the stores.
How will the building of a new arena affect student costs? Rayburn says the goal of the university is education, and the concerns of the students come first. He insists the university will do all it can to keep the project's cost from affecting student tuition. Reporting for Temple Update, I'm David Scott.
Temple's Board of Trustees has granted conditional recognition to 18 campus fraternities and sororities. It gives the Greek organizations more of a say in university affairs. The decision was declined in the past over board concerns that the university could be held liable for the group's actions. But under the approved agreement, fraternities and sororities must purchase insurance policies providing coverage in the event of a lawsuit. And the university has established a Greek association to set up rules of conduct. About 1,500 Temple students belong to Greek organizations. Housing shortages at Temple's main campus have forced some students to live as far away as southwest Philadelphia. Victoria Grigsby has more now on this story.
Students who signed up for off-campus housing last spring didn't know how far off campus they would actually live. They were expecting to live where Temple had previously housed students, at the Drake in Center City, the Chocolate Works, Wireworks, and the Bridgeview in Old City. But when contract negotiations with these places fell through in late July, many students were not happy with Temple's last-minute choice.
Coleman Suites way out in southwest Philly and Temple's in North Philly, that's the other part of town. I really wasn't happy about that at all.
I wanted to live in the Wireworks. I was looking forward to living in the Wireworks, and I wasn't sure about this Coleman Suites thing.
Only half of the students who initially signed up agreed to live at Coleman Suites International City Chalets. For many, living out by the airport was not an acceptable alternative.
Too far out of the way. Out by the airport? Come on. That's an hour to classes? By shuttle bus? No, that wasn't even possible.
Students at Coleman Suites must take a shuttle bus and the subway to get to school. But the bus schedule doesn't always click with the subways. Students often have to wait, which makes commuting time even longer. Temple spokeswoman Kathy Goslinger says she knows the distance is a problem. But she says the university had to come up with housing quickly, once they found out the Drake and historic landmarks would no longer be affordable.
We're entirely empathetic to that. We recognize that as a problem, and that's one of the reasons we sent out that questionnaire asking whether it would be acceptable. I think if it comes down to a question of being far away from the campus but still within Temple management and still with Temple students, many students prefer that rather over going out and finding their own housing.
But for students who know the area, Corman Suites is not the ideal place to live. They say it's just too far away from the rest of the city. Many students who don't have a car feel isolated. They must rely on the bus schedule, which makes it hard to have a job or go out at night. Also, Corman Suites is very spread out. This makes it difficult for students to meet one another. A bright spot to Corman Suites is the club. Here students can work out in the fitness center, equipped with a Nautilus, exercise bikes, and aerobics room. Despite its location, a lot of students think Corman Suites is a nice place to live. The 1- and 2-bedroom apartments are larger than on-campus dorms. They have wall-to-wall carpeting, and unlike the Drake, each apartment has its own washer and dryer. Although some students are enjoying the quiet environment, Kathy Goslinger says Temple worries it's turning too many students away. She says the university is looking to ease the housing crunch by building new dorms. It plans to provide about 500 additional beds within the next 5 years. In the meantime, Goslinger says they're looking for closer off-campus housing. Reporting for Temple Update, Victoria Grigsby.
Security at the Corman Suites has been beefed up after a series of burglaries. Several residents, including a Temple student, have been robbed. Corman officials have installed window locks for added protection, as well as more police patrols. Jazz into the 90s. That's the theme of this year's fund drive for Temple's public radio station. Jazz 90 WRTI-FM has a goal of $150,000. It enlisted the help of many, including some local favorites.
For about 5 minutes. Yeah.
On this particular day, Grover Washington Jr. took time out to pitch for WRTI.
We all know what happens when you don't support something, it disappears. So let's get on those phones.
He joined station's general manager Ted Eldridge and program director Carl Kessler to help raise money. The station relies on listener pledges of support for funding. The money supports the programming Jazz 90 features, the maintenance of equipment, as well as the work experience the station offers to students like midday disc jockey Wendy Nelson, who is a graduate student in the School of Journalism. The 10-day campaign was put together by membership coordinator Nancy Vizard and development director Julie Wiseman. They enlisted the help of community and student volunteers as listeners called in with their pledges of support to keep Jazz 90 on the air. At last count, 1,676 people pledged $70,000 to support Temple's public radio station. Nationally recognized artists Maynard Ferguson, Andy Norrell, and bassist Stanley Clark also helped to pitch. Stanley Clark was a recent inductee to the Walk of Fame, and violinist John Blake, also from Philadelphia, helped to pitch to raise support for Jazz 90. Local favorites pianist Father John D'Amico and the duo Trudy Pitts and Mr. C also helped out.
150 people were evacuated from Annenberg Hall last week due to a suspected gas leak. Students and faculty waited outside for 35 minutes. Philadelphia Gas Works and the campus fire marshal said there was no need for alarm. A propane tank emitting fumes was left near the fresh air intake on the roof. Well, it's time for midterms for many Temple students, as evident from the multitudes flocking to the library and other quiet spots to catch up on their reading. For many students, midterms means tension and a cause of added stress. Some advice from Temple's Counseling Center: don't worry, it only makes it worse.
The expectations they have of something happening as being bad is going to be terrible. That sets off the worry cycle, and as we worry, then we begin to develop the stress. As a matter of fact, one of the best ways to take a test is to do some meditation right before the test time itself. And then you do some very positive affirmations of how well you're going to do on the test. When you walk into the test, you own the test. Fill your name in first before you do anything else. And then it becomes your test. It's no longer the professor's.
The Counseling Center offers a morning starter and an afternoon charger every morning from 8 to 8:25 and every afternoon from 2 to 2:25. Students can stop by for a refreshing way to make it through the day. Well, many college students are going to have to hit the books if a recent survey is right. The Gallup poll found considerable ignorance among college seniors of basic facts about history and literature. Some of the questions: when did Columbus discover America? The answer, 1492. Of those surveyed, 25% got that one wrong. Another question on the survey: who wrote The Tempest? The answer, William Shakespeare. 58% didn't know the answer to that one. The National Endowment for the Humanities, which conducted the survey, called for colleges and universities to get back to the basics by stressing the liberal arts. That's something already in effect at Temple University. Any incoming student must meet new university requirements, including courses in the basics, such as history, literature, science, and math.
Non-traditional students are making up a large portion of the student population here at Temple University. Almost half of the students enrolled at Temple are aged 22 or older. Counseling coordinator of the adult program, Kay Miller, says adults are going back to school to get degrees to advance them in the marketplace. However, many adults have been full-time employees. Some have been full-time family caretakers, and the transition to full-time student isn't an easy road. Next week on Temple Update, reporter Vicki Ackers will have more on this growing trend of adult students. Tim Wilder is a father, a student, a Temple security guard, and an award-winning poet. The World of Poetry organization named Wilder Golden Poet of 1989. Lisa Butler talked with Wilder at his West Philadelphia home.
Tim Wilder's home is like many homes. Wall decorations reflect his interests and accomplishments. However, Wilder's poetry, more than his memorabilia, leaves you with an impression not only of him, but of the world. Tim writes poetry that mirrors his perception of modern-day society.
There's a saying that, you know, if you want to be remembered, you know, you have to either write something, you know what I mean, worth people talking about, or talk about something worth writing about. I wanted to write about what was happening now, what was happening today.
Tim saw drugs influencing his family and neighborhood and wrote about the epidemic, producing the award-winning poem In Morning's Light. It took about 6 weeks of resource gathering and late-night observances before it was finished. Wilder has always been interested in writing. He began to seriously pursue the idea 6 years ago while working at the Child Guidance Center in Philadelphia. Adolescents he saw struggling to escape drugs and prostitution habits received a personalized poem.
It was an incentive for them, an incentive for their families, you know, and something that they can also show other people without, you know, telling them all their business, you know. They can say, yeah, well, you know, this was written for me.
Tim is a security guard at Temple's Law Building, and in addition to greeting the regular students, occasionally he'll greet a memory.
Some of the same students that I had at the clinic are students at Temple University. So every once in a while, they, you know, either come around, we run into each other, and that, you know, and that joy is still there, you know, because they're trying to do something with their lives.
When he's not working or writing, the 46-year-old father of 8 spends a lot of time studying. He's taking classes at Temple in sign language, Spanish, and public speaking. A main thrust in Wilder's life is church and his faith in God. It spurred him on to fight against the drug epidemic that he feels is directly linked with the demise of the family. In Morning's Light addresses Wilder's concern.
With no positive roadmap, no limit setting, no sign of family restriction, no self-esteem or worth, the disappearance of the family off the face of the earth, feminizing the darkness in epidemic proportions, searching for drugs and having abortions. Families are starving, there's no motivation to toil. Illiterate behavior, wasting the midnight oil.
The poem is dedicated to his brother, a top employee for the Drug Enforcement Agency in Washington, D.C. He titled the poem In Morning's Light because it's the nighttime drug dealing that lures adolescents out, and it's the morning light that brings them in.
Our children's missing. Something's not right. Seeing our youth fade into morning's light. Frightened young women, I say, feminizing the night, all for a $10 puff on a cocaine pipe.
The recently released World Treasury of Great Poetry contains Tim's first published poem. Eventually, he plans to publish his own anthology of works titled Why Die in Vain? It's clear, though, that his first love, counseling youth, will continue to be his top priority and concern.
From every region, we must take a stand to rid our communities of the drug-pushing man. Drug persuade children, so it is a fight. Just so long as we the parents are in control come morning's light.
Reporting for Temple Update, I'm Lisa Butler.
Coming up next on Temple Update, the men's basketball schedule has been set. Mike Rossi will be here with sports.
And a look at the fad of the 1980s. It's the 60s, coming up when we return.
Stick with us.
spend every moment of your life. But if you give it away, you'll never miss it. It's common, yet precious. And even though you need it to live, you'll feel better when you give it away. It's blood. And now more than ever, the American Red Cross needs healthy donors. Give blood, please.
Good news for those of us who don't have time for meals and end up living off snacks all day. A New England Journal of Medicine study says snacking, rather than eating 3 big meals a day, may lower blood cholesterol. Doctors at the University of Toronto tested the snack food diet and found it reduced overall cholesterol 8.5% and reduced LDL, bad cholesterol linked to heart disease, by 13.5%. The scientists do warn snackers, though, to limit the amount of food in each snack. The American Red Cross blood drive at Temple University's Ambler campus captured the spirit of giving. Allison Newton has the story.
And their workers and volunteers are inside Bright Hall here at Temple University's Ambler campus, holding one of their 3 annual blood drives. Steve Gambino, coordinator of student activities, organized the event.
We contacted the sorority and fraternity, Alpha Chi Rho and Sigma Chi Delta, to be the co-sponsors. And we called one rep from each of the 17 student organizations and had a recruitment meeting where we went over some tips on how to get the people to come in without saying no. So we don't ask the question, will you donate blood? We ask them, do you know we have a blood drive on campus this year? Would you like to participate? And then
volunteers who agree to donate blood first go through a brief screening process. Mark Suppley, nurse manager for the American Red Cross Blood Services, explains.
We have to review some of the questions with you that affect the safety of the blood you're giving to the recipient. And then we do like a mini health exam, checking your temperature, pulse, and blood pressure, and also check your iron count to make sure that you can safely donate blood.
Volunteers proceed from the screening process to the donor tables, where a phlebotomist takes over. Charmaine Butler, a phlebotomist with the Red Cross, explains the procedure.
We apply a blood pressure cuff, lay them down, give them a little toy to play with. We review some of the information with them. That is to make sure that they do not set their paper down and like mix it up with someone else's, whatever. And after we check everything, we prep their arm for 30 seconds with an iodine-based solution, sterilize the arm. I match some of the numbers up off the bag. There's extra numbers that we put onto the paperwork. That's how we identify the blood with the donor. And I fill in all the information I have to, and then we start the donation.
Some of the blood is then sectioned off and sent to the lab to be tested, and the remainder is refrigerated. One donor told us it makes him feel good to donate blood and that the procedure is not painful. How would he encourage others?
It's certainly a worthwhile feeling, and I'm sure the medical community could use it.
Reporting for Temple Update, I'm Allison Newton.
And Mike Rossi is here from the sports desk with the details of Temple football team's most recent meeting with Boston College.
Thanks, Victoria. Things just keep getting worse for Temple.
This past week, the Owls faced Jack Bicknell's 0-4 Boston College Eagles. Jerry Burnt and the Owls still looking for win number 1. Early on, things look good for Temple. Right here, Gary Mobley picks off a Willie Hicks pass, but as has been the case all year, turnovers bury the Owls. On the run back, Mobley is stripped of the ball, and BC recovers in the end zone for an early 7-0 lead. Now with the score 10-0, Lee Frager goes in from the 3 for a 16-0 lead. For the Owls, Ventress Stevenson was the offense. He gained 172 yards on the day, 36 of those on this second quarter touchdown run, closing the gap to 22-7. Owls quarterback Victor Lay having no luck whatsoever. Lay threw 3 interceptions, this one off the chest of Chris Chambers and into the arms of BC's Ron Perryman. Temple finally did get a break. Right here, Scott McNair finds the hole around the outside, but fumbles. Luckily for the Owls, Tim Hornbaker was right there to pick up the loose ball and scamper 32 yards for the score. But it wasn't enough. The Owls lose 35-14, and Jerry Burnt sees his team go to 0-7. Burnt's personal losing streak now at 25.
The Owls have this week off before hosting Northern Illinois at the Vet on October 28th. Temple's 1989-90 men's basketball schedule is out, and the Owls will face some tough opponents. Among the teams Temple will square off against: North Carolina State, Nevada, Las Vegas, Georgia Tech, and of course the tough foes of the Big Five: St. Joe's, LaSalle, Penn, and Villanova. Two of Temple's home games will not be played at McGonigal Hall. The game on January 6th versus North Carolina State will be at Atlantic City's Convention Hall, and the January 13th game against UNLV will be at the Spectrum. Turning to volleyball, the Temple women's team is on their way to a berth in the Atlantic 10 tournament. Temple Update's Bill Moore takes a look at the young Lady Owls squad.
The Temple women's volleyball team is off to a good start this season. They're 12-7 with 2 recent wins over Lehigh, who they thrashed in 3 straight games, and Rutgers, who they beat in 5 games with an impressive come-from-behind surge. Coach Sharon Oleksak talks about some key players on this year's squad.
Shelly Miller is a key player because she's the one that's running the offense, and she's doing a real nice job and hustling real well. Number 2 that just walked by, Missy Johnson, she's supplying a nice steady attack and a nice leadership out on the floor, so she's doing a nice job. Diane Walther in the middle, excellent. Those are probably like Jennifer Hoffer's passing, just nice and steady. Those are kind of like main 4 mainstays.
The Lady Owls are looking forward to next season with 4 of the 6 starters returning. Junior Shelly Miller, co-captain, comments on what she sees for the future of the team.
I think we're still a really young team, so if we just keep on improving like we have been, that's a team goal.
As far as this year's team is concerned, the coach has some definite goals in mind.
I'd like to see us get 20 wins this year. I think we can. Qualifying for the Atlantic 10 Conference is a big goal, and I think we can finish in the top 4 in the conference, which would be a very big goal for Temple volleyball.
Strengthened its hold on an Atlantic 10 tournament berth with a 3-0 win over Massachusetts last week. The 13-8 Lady Owls travel to Ryder and come back home to face George Washington before participating in the annual Big 5 tournament at LaSalle later this week. The Lady Owls field hockey team had a productive week. Temple snapped a 2-game losing streak by beating Delaware State 3-1 on Thursday. Temple closed out its 4-game road swing with a 3-0 shutout over Rhode Island on Saturday. With the 2 victories, Temple moved to 8-5-1 overall, 1-1-1 in the Atlantic 10. The Lady Owls host Penn on Tuesday, visit crosstown rival St. Joe's on Thursday, and return home to play Ball State and Old Dominion this weekend. And finally, the men's soccer team did not fare well last week. The Owls were blanked by Rutgers 2-0 on Tuesday and lost to 13th-ranked Philadelphia Textile on Saturday. The Owls are now 5-4 overall, 1-2 in the Atlantic 10, and 2-1 in the Philadelphia Soccer 7. The men's team takes on Lehigh and Drexel this week. And that's it from the Sports Desk, Victoria.
Thanks, Mike. In a decade filled with scandals on Wall Street, most business schools now offer coursework on ethics. The subject is integrated in everyday classwork. According to a recent study conducted by the Ethics Resource Center, only 12% of business schools studied offer a separate ethics course. These classes try to develop awareness about ethical decision-making. Here's a list of upcoming campus events here on Main Campus. The program board is featuring 4 movies this week. Wednesday and Thursday, October 18th and 19th, the horror film Pet Sematary. October 20th, Jesus Christ Superstar will be playing. Monday and Tuesday, the 23rd and 24th, Amadeus. The program board is also conducting a jazz series this week. You can hear compositions of Clifford Brown at the Night Owl performed by Ted Cursom and James Spaulding. At Ambler campus, laughter will fill the dining hall at this comedy cabaret night Thursday the 19th. And October 23rd kicks off Dare Week at the Health Sciences campus.
And that's it for this edition of Temple Update. I'm Lynn Giroud.
And I'm Victoria Lim. For Mike Rossi and the entire Update crew, thanks for watching.